Okay, this is Jerome Corsi, and I'm here, up and running, I think, with the live stream. And this is a special Father's Day edition, where it's a Saturday, and we're going to go at least an hour and a half today, see how my voice holds out, and get some people coming in already. Good to see people and coming in. Q. Kendrick, thanks as always. Thank you very much. Lars Goran Fredrickson from Peru. Well, great. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Great attendance already. Thank you. Nice surprise having it today. Yes, thank you. Happy Saturday. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, to all the families. It should be a great day for celebration tomorrow. I intend to spend the day with my family, and I hope all of you are able to do the same. Thank you for the greetings from the Netherlands, from Cape Town, from Switzerland. We're getting people from all over the world, which is terrific. I love the formation of this community being an international community and how many people are coming on. It's great for Father's Day. Also, all the troll hunters coming on. I'm very pleased to see everybody here who are the moderators coming aboard. Remember, we want to get rid of the, I say like the Nazis and the communists. The Nazis are the ones who post swastika, 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 and the communists are the ones who oppose anybody making any money. You know, they think profiteering. That's the communist disinformation for what we as capitalists think of a legitimate earnings and rightful profit. And I will watch the Super Chat today and be happy to acknowledge and take questions from the Super Chat. I think we'll get a lot of questions. Manchester, UK. Thank you. Kenan Dietrich, you're back. Good. Welcome here. Quebec, Canada. Trudeau will lose not only his eyebrows, but he'll lose in 2019. Everybody's going right in Canada today. Happy Father's Day to all. Miami Beach, Vietnam veterans. That's Peter Anthony Rowland. Well, that's terrific. I have a special place in my heart for all the Vietnam veterans, having worked with John O'Neill on the Swift Boat book. Swift Boat Veterans Speak Out Against John Kerry, 2004. And it's great to have all. Rick L., yes, free Tommy Robinson. I think I'll probably make a point on that to begin with, that we've got our own Tommy Robinson now. His name is Manafort. With Manafort, we've got our own Tommy Robinson. Australia, great. Thank you very much for joining us from Australia. London, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, Ohio, my hometown, where I was born. Great to have so many people joining us. We've already got we've got a almost 325 people joining us now, taking a break from editing a book for Penguin's Portfolio imprint. I wish they had a Patriot imprint featuring you. That's very nice. That's from Julia B., 1955. Thank you for that very kind sentiment. Great to see everybody here. They have the, what I was going to say with the moderators today, do like we have been wanting to do, which is we want to get rid of the trolls, the ones who are here to cause trouble. But I really want to leave it open for general discussion and for people who, can have views that are a little bit different. This is a community. And in the community, I don't expect us to all agree. We may have different views and different subjects we want to pursue and different ways of looking at things. That's okay. I don't want people who are blocked for mentioning a particular subject. Bristol, England, Tokyo. We're getting a lot of international participation today. I'm very pleased about that. Everybody around the world is welcome. This is an international community. My whole goal is to create an international community where we can look at news and politics critically. We can do it with a context to see the deep meaning and with a view to the Christian Judeo tradition that our founding fathers held. that where we can have a First Amendment, a Second Amendment, a Fourth Amendment. In the Super Chat, David's Dog Spa, loved Trump's impromptu presser. Yes, did everybody see that yesterday when Donald Trump walked out of the West Wing to talk be on Fox and Friends, and he did over a 50-minute impromptu press conference? I thought he was brilliant, answering questions, fielding questions, telling the press to, putting them in order. And I thought it was just, we'll talk about some of the content of that, but I really see Donald Trump now increasingly hitting his stride and being increasingly in charge of his destiny. I see the Trump counterattack starting. Now, I want to make here's what we're going to do today. I want to make a few introductory remarks about a few things on the current events. But let's see. Okay. But I basically want to get a few things largely dealing with Tommy Robinson and Manafort. And then I've spent hours and hours reading this Inspector General's report, all 500 pages. And I've really been reading it very deeply. I've been, going into a lot of the details. I can't say I've read every page with equal attention, but I've gotten a lot of it really thoroughly studied. And I'd like to present to you today something that counters the mainstream media narrative, which is a lot about what we're about. Because I really believe that this is a very important report and that it changes the narrative. And it changes the narrative in favor of Donald Trump and in favor of the truth coming out. And so I know a number of people were disappointed because it said the Comey's decision not to prosecute Hillary was not political. But yet almost the entire rest of the report said it was political. And that headline about, I'll explain why Horowitz said that, but it's a very narrow statement. And the Inspector General's report shows enormous political bias against Donald Trump, and that's the main subject. Corsi Nation, thank you, Victoria Penley. Corsi Nation, I'm increasingly liking that as the kind of tag or title that we're going to go by as we develop this. And really, I'm looking forward to a long-term development of this whole internet live stream project where we can have an international community. And I love all the participation from around the world where we can share ideas and develop this internet communication as an alternative citizen journalism. Because I'm confident what this is about is all of you out there really taking a hold of this and making it yours. I mean, I've said frequently that, I think I'll do my best work after I'm 80. So I still feel like I'm in preparation. I'm still in training. And for many of you out there who might have thought, well, I can't be a citizen journalism. It's not my first career, or maybe I should be retired. The knowledge you have and the abilities you have never been greater in your entire life, I would think, and I would hope. And you have new horizons to go, new places to conquer. Let's do it together. I'll be encouraging you to the techniques of journalism and how it works, investigative journalism. Peter Anthony Rowland in the Super Chat. Happy Father's Day, Dr. Corsi and Corsi Nation. Bless all daddies, mommies, and families. Yes, I really share that sentiment. I'm really happy to do a Father's Day broadcast the day before Father's Day, and I'm happy that everyone's joining us. Jennifer Small, thank you. Very generous, Jennifer, and you've been here repeatedly, contributed repeatedly. You're one of the members of the community I clearly recognize and appreciate. Now you say, I'm tormented. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Let's hear why. The IG report gave Loretta Lynch a pass, saying she showed poor judgment. The tarmac conversation is critical. Did she accept a political bribe from Bill Clinton to exonerate Hillary in exchange for political office? If so, that is obstruction. Yes, it is. Victoria Penley, thank you, and thank you for your expertise, Dr. Corsi. I appreciate that. I'm going to get into that, Jennifer, but let me answer the question right now because I think it's key to a lot of what I want to say. The section of the Inspector General's report about the tarmac meeting, the Inspector General had a limited ability to do research. He couldn't call in witnesses who weren't already or currently employed by the Department of Justice. He didn't have the subpoena powers that a special prosecutor or a grand jury would have. And he late in the game got connected with John Huber, who's supposed to be playing a U.S. attorney in Utah, supposed to be playing this role of prosecutor with Horowitz to complement him. I'm not confident it's happening in any significant way. I don't trust Sessions and I don't trust Rosenstein. I think the Department of Justice left to itself will cover up. Now, the only testimony that Horowitz had was what Hillary and what Bill Clinton or what Loretta Lynch told him about that meeting. Now, we know from a variety of sources that it's likely that Bill Clinton in that meeting promised a Supreme Court position, Supreme Court judgeship to Loretta Lynch. And I can't imagine that the meeting was accidental. But see, this report is not intended to be a prosecutor's examination. It's intended by the Inspector General. His mandate is to look at improprieties within the Department of Justice that he can prove given the limitations of his charter. That's why we are going to need a special prosecutor. And I'm confident that's going to be a major theme next week, in particular because the sections on the tarmac meeting were particularly weak. And I agree with you, Jennifer Small, that when we learn more about it, that's going to be obstruction of justice. But why I'm so pleased about the Inspector General's report is that what we're dealing with here is a narrative and how the public perceives this narrative. If you go back to when Mueller was first appointed, the idea was, this was a brilliant prosecutor who will do a fair job and will, trust Mueller, trust Sessions, and he's even really secretly investigating Hillary. All that now we know is nonsense. Mueller has got a hardcore group of hate Trump prosecutors who are some of the most corrupt the Department of Justice has ever produced. Jay Gotch, thank you very much in the super chat. I really appreciate it, and I will be noticing and watching these as we go along, as well as trying to read and get as many of the comments and questions out of live chat. Everybody's welcome here. I love it when you contribute, and I love it when you're just here. You don't feel you have to make a contribution. They're deeply appreciated. And everybody here is welcome. It's a community where I want everybody to feel at home and able to express themselves. I do watch the live chat as we go along. Toby, let's see. The point I want to make is that the narrative has now changed, and the Inspector General has done a lot to do that. He gave us, we would not have known about Stroke and Page had it not been for the Inspector General. Back to even his first report on McCabe, we started to learn about all these Stroke and Page emails and messages to one another. Remember, the Department of Justice won't release any of them, but the Inspector General did. And so the theme of the current report to me is that Strozik controlled, he was the lead investigator on the Hillary investigation. He was the lead investigator on the Russian investigation. He was the key figure who suppressed looking at Weiner's laptop. And he was the core figure, and he hated Trump. And we now know that. So the FBI bias has tarnished the institution, maybe irreparably. And there's all kinds of things. I spent all day, I've got a whole huge stack of things to point out to you that we now know, including that the Weiner tape probably has evidence on it of the Clinton Foundation and child sex activities. That's in the report. But you have to read the footnotes. You know, the big headline is that, nothing was political. But that just means that Comey had a legal reason for arguing what he did. And the Inspector General's job was not to second question that. And Comey was never going to say, the only witnesses still in the Justice Department were never going to say we made political decisions. So the Inspector General kind of had to say these people were not making political decisions. But the backstory is so damaging about Strozik and Page and all of the bias and all of the decisions made with the bias. And that story is told in 500 pages that the report is explosive. Yes, the mainstream media and CNBC they can spin, say there's nothing here because it says the decisions were not political. But yet that's one page. The entire 499 other pages tell a different story. And that's the story today when we think about it, especially with Manafort now in prison. We can begin to see that Donald Trump is right. This is a witch hunt. And my whole theme today is going to be to support a tweet that Donald Trump put out this morning. I want to read that in a minute. John Arend, I want to comment on this. John Arend is saying, and thank you for the super chat, John, said, please comment on QAnon's crumbs. Most of us are unable to decode his messages the way you do. Please help us to understand. Thank you, and God bless you. I had been very supportive of Q, as you know, and I have made the comments that I think it's been compromised. And while I'm watching the Q posts and seeing if there's any changes, and I'll keep a close eye on it, I'm still at my original position, and that is I don't think these are legitimate military intelligence posts. I think it's been compromised. Now, I also want to make it clear that I will honor anyone else who wants to follow Q and who wants to go deeply into it. I don't want this to be a debate between me and Q. If Q's got useful information, let's use it. The one thing I'm here today to talk about is not Q, but the main theme of this whole discussion is that if you really want to understand the Inspector General's report the way that Donald Trump understands it, then the story is that maybe a headline that says that the Inspector General concluded that Comey did not make a political decision is one page thick. The conclusion that everything the Department of Justice did was biased politically and Strozik is at the center of this is 499 pages. And the conclusion is that the Inspector General is worrying that the political damage done to the Department of Justice by this whole Hillary episode, by ignoring Weiner's laptop, by putting Strozik at the center of it. Strozik was even employed by Mueller until July, I believe it was 2017, when the Inspector General made available his text messages with Lisa Page. Lisa Page and Strozik were both hired by Mueller. So the bias even goes over into Mueller. That's the story here. Massive political bias, which has undermined, maybe even irreparably, the damage done to the Department of Justice. as such that Donald Trump now is having and is going to have authorization to clean the swamp like he's never had before. I'm thrilled at this report, because once you understand it, as best he could, within the politics of even his job, David Horowitz did a brilliant job of putting the message out there in the majority of the report so it was unmistakable, but yet not himself appearing to be a political actor, because he looks impartial, having taken the narrow role that his job description allowed him to take, which is that unless Comey admitted to being political, if Comey had a reason for making a decision that was based in law, it was not Horowitz's job to second-guess that. That's the limitation Horowitz was operating under, and it's critical that we understand that. Now, Donald Trump, in his tweets, I got to tell you, I think Donald Trump is brilliant in his tweets. Look at what he said today. This one was about 7 hours ago. The Inspector General totally destroys James Comey and all of his minions, including the great lovers, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who started the disgraceful witch hunt against so many innocent people. It will go down as a dark and dangerous period in American history. Donald Trump's right. And the beginning of that recognition, the beginning of the counterattack, the beginning of the shift in the narrative, keys on Horowitz's 2 reports that we have available, and there's going to be more coming. This is just the beginning. So I'd like to take a look over here in the live chat and make sure that everyone is tracking with this, and that we're having a, yes, the Wiener laptop case is open, Robert Jonas, yes. Good afternoon from Argentina. We're getting people from all over the world again. Thank you for remembering John Kerry in which I alluded to earlier, my book Unfit for Command. That's, by the way, that got me started. Unfit for Command was probably my 3rd career. You know, I didn't write Unfit for Command until I was in my 50s. You know, that's where I'd say every one of you have to realize out there that, you know, this begins, your real opportunity begins now. And I think I was 58 years old when Unfit for Command was published. And I feel like I'm just getting started. Orion, how about the Military Justice Act of 2016? Yes, Donald Trump has really revised the military code. What I wrote in Killing the Deep State, and I'd like you to have this as the framework for the discussion today, is that, number one, there's 3 phases, I think. First phase we're just about done with, and that was that Donald Trump had to survive the attempt to impeach him. And I think that's almost done. I think Mueller's out of gas, and I think Mueller is going to be, I said the turning point for Mueller would be June 15th. Here it is, June 15th and June 16th. This is the turning point for Mueller. I'll get a note here that people are debating here in the legitimacy of Q. You know, I think with Q, Mike, I'd say it's healthy to question Q at this point. We don't have to resolve whether it's legitimate or not legitimate. Debating it is, I think, important. You know, learn to trust your own reasoning skills on this and be less dependent on others. We don't need a Q. Now, I'm not going to say anything disrespectful to those who want to follow Q. And if there's interesting information over there, we'll take a look at it. And, you know, it's like all other information out there. Another potential view of what we're trying to analyze with Donald Trump's presidency that may be of use. And when it is, I will respectfully pay attention to it. But I really don't want to have a fight between us and those who believe in Q. I don't think that's productive. I want us to be respectful to Q, and I want us to be respectful to those who follow Q. And I'd like them in return to be respectful to us, because we're not here trashing or being disrespectful to Q. We'll be respectful to all sources, and we'll take Q as another source in the debate. Lewis Bishop, as usual, Dr. Corsi, God bless you, and thank you again for all the information you provide. Thank you for that in the super chat. That's very much respected. And so, look, I think we need on this to put aside the Q debate and to look at Q and see what's there, and etc. I want to focus today on the Inspector General's report, because I think that's a huge amount of what we've got, and that's where I think the real attention needs to be placed. Now, I do want to comment on Manafort, because I think he's our Tommy Robinson. You know, Tommy Robinson, who I want to remind everyone is in prison in Great Britain for having taken a live stream of a court hearing that had to do with children being groomed for sex, you know, the pedophilia sex trade, and it involved Muslims. And now Tommy has been convicted of 13 months in prison, and he's been put into a prison that's over 70% Muslim. And I'm very concerned. We want to watch this case very carefully, because I think Tommy Robinson needs worldwide attention. He needs all of us and all of you to be paying attention to this in order, very likely, to save his life. And I take this as a moral responsibility that we all have to work as a community to stand behind Tommy Robinson. These are critical elements. I also want to thank the doctors in Boca who are joining us. They've been a great group of supporters I've been very close to. And happy Father's Day to all those in Boca as well, and thank you for joining us. Now, Manafort was thrown in prison yesterday because Mueller, who I think is just a crooked prosecutor, has decided that he was trying to witness tamper. Now, this, I think, first of all, Mueller has not been convicted of anything. And this witness tampering, the judge who decided this is a Obama liberal activist judge. Her name is Amy Berman. Now, she did things, for instance, in 2013, she rejected the arguments from the Catholic Church that Obama's requirements of employers to provide cost-free contraceptive services is contrary to religious beliefs. That was overturned by the Supreme Court. She dismissed the wrongful death suit against Hillary Clinton that was filed by two families who lost loved ones in Benghazi. This judge has been an activist judge from the very, very beginning. And, you know, Paul Manafort is out there trying to fight for his freedom. He filed a suit against Sessions, against Rod Rosenstein, against Mueller, that could put down Mueller's corrupt investigation. That was reported in January 3rd, that he's fighting back. Mueller has taken something here that I think basically, when you take a look at Dershowitz made a comment on this, the professor from Harvard, saying it's just outrageous in terms of constitutional liberty that we have right now in prison Manafort, who's not been convicted of any crime. And I think this is going to turn the country more and more against Mueller. By the way, the prosecutor who argued that was Weissman. Weissman is just one of the dirtiest prosecutors. He was excoriated in the Enron case, and he was excoriated. Take a look at the book. I've got it right here, written by Powell, called "License to Lie." Sidney Powell, "License to Lie," which just shows how Weissman and Mueller and these others from the Obama-era prosecutors will break the law to get somebody in prison. Aisle 3, thank you. What's the best Iran strategy? on free Iran. My heart goes out to Iran. I wrote in 2005 Atomic Iran, which was a book that really launched me to working with the Iranian community worldwide. And in working with the Iranian community, I walked 200 miles. Most of the people, Muslim, they're wanting freedom for their own country. The quick answer to it, because it's a little bit off theme today, but I want to acknowledge the super chat, is I think the best strategy for Iran is for us to promote the green movement, the green revolution in Iran, and try to have, like we did in North Korea, a change of the regime's attitude, or maybe even a regime change from within. In 2009, when the Green Revolution was in the streets of Tehran, President Obama did nothing. President Trump will do a lot. He'll reach out. All right, now, in concluding this first part, this is why I'm going to do an hour and a half today, because I really want to have enough time to go through the Inspector General's report in some detail. That I want to stay focused on this because this is really an important topic and I want the train of thought to develop. So let me review what I'm saying. I'm saying that the theme I'm going to develop today is that the real conclusion of the Horowitz report was that Strozik and Page and their hatred of Donald Trump biased the entire Department of Justice investigation of Hillary and created this narrative of Russia, which even Strozik knew was a dead end, but yet pursued it to try to impeach Donald Trump. That disgraced the entire FBI. Inspector General Horowitz acknowledges that and is very worried about it. That's the main conclusion of his report. And that also this hatred caused Strozik, who was heading the Russian invasion, to be able to shelve the Wiener laptop investigation. And the Wiener laptop has all the evidence needed to prove that Hillary Clinton is guilty of major crimes with the handling of her emails. Now, in the rest of the hour, this next hour, I'm going to try to go through the report and show you in the report why this is the major theme. So just keep that in your mind as the major theme. And I want to preface it, as I did with Manafort going into prison, because that ties in with Tommy Robinson and shows that what we're really dealing with here is a deep state coup d'etat. The attempt last throws a deep state in panic to take those forces of liberty, those who would argue for freedom, and put them in prison. These are the kinds of heroism that Tommy Robinson and Manafort and others in this movement that we saw expressed by people like Martin Luther King, who allowed himself many times to go to prison. His letter from the Montgomery prison is one of the more moving in American history. Mahatma Gandhi and others who have, like a Tommy Robinson or Paul Manafort, been willing to be imprisoned for what they knew was their belief in liberty and their pursuit of liberty. And I want to, as we go through this, ask today for the help of God. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, will ask his blessing on our discussion to open our eyes. A Judeo-Christian tradition. Key to my beliefs are the books of the Torah, the books of Moses, and the New Testament. And all religions welcome under the spirit of the First Amendment. As I said, I've walked with Islam 200 miles for freedom in Iran. I will do it again if I could. I'd be happy to participate in all these to free Iran, free North Korea. We need freedom brought across the world. So I invoke and ask for the blessing on our discussion today, that we can really open your minds and get your involvement as a community into advancing what Donald Trump summed up as the theme. And let me read Donald Trump to refocus us on our major subject today. Donald Trump tweeted it out 7 hours ago. The Inspector General report today totally destroys James Comey and his minions, including the lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who started the disgraceful witch hunt against so many innocent people. It will go down as a dark and dangerous period in American history. I want everyone to understand here that this whole community is going to be founded on prayer and an acceptance of the sacredness of God, the sacredness, however you believe in God, which I think is essential to us advancing in the spirit of light to illuminate these issues. It's fundamental to the investigative journalism that I do, and I want to share that with you. And hopefully that spirit will be shared by the community as a whole. All right, now let's turn our attention to the report. One last look over here at the live chat. We have people from all over the world today. I think over the weekend we get people even more from other countries, Australia, New Zealand. We have people from all over the world. It's truly a great pleasure. You're all welcome here. And it's Sunday already in Australia. That's right. That's right. It's Sunday already in Australia. San Diego and the like. Thank you very much. Last time I was in Australia was 1999, and I really love it. Okay, so we're gonna now let's regroup and focus on the report. Horowitz begins in the report, and this is, he has an executive summary, and the that's right. It's really all over the world. It's after midnight in Australia, in Israel. It's the beginning of the day in the Pacific. It is in a sense already Father's Day around the world, and we're going to share that together. Yes, I'll come back to it. We need a day of national repentance, asking God to heal our land. I continue to press that theme. I believe Donald Trump is a godly person. I see more of it than I've known him for years. He's more godly now than he ever was. And God will come forward to heal our land if we ask. I think the hand of God is on Donald Trump. And I think you're going to see also that this Inspector General's report is going to fundamentally change the narrative to give Donald Trump what he needs to begin a counterattack. This whole narrative from the executive summary, page 3, which is the third page of the report, says, in undertaking our analysis, our task was made significantly more difficult because of the text and instant messages exchanged on FBI devices and systems by 5 employees involved in the Hillary Clinton investigation. They call it the mid-year investigation because it occurred, basically, this was their beginning of the campaign. They call it their mid-year. That's the Hillary Clinton email investigation. These messages reflected political opinions in support of former Secretary Clinton and against her then political opponent Donald Trump. Some of these messages and instant messages mixed political commentary with discussions about the Hillary Clinton investigation and raised concerns that political bias may have impacted investigative decisions. That's page 3. Now, you're not going to hear that on MSNBC, but the theme here is the political bias impacted the investigation to let Hillary go and to find ways to make sure Donald Trump wasn't president. In particular, we were concerned about text messages exchanged by FBI Assistant Director Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, Special Counsel to Deputy Director. See, they were both very senior. Strzok was running the Counterintelligence Division, and Lisa Page was Special Counselor to the Deputy Director, to McCabe. And these two played a key role in Hillary's investigation and in the beginning of the Russian investigation. So as we describe in chapter 12, most of the text messages raising such questions pertained to the Russian investigation, which is going to be in the next report. But he says still he has to comment on it here. Nevertheless, the suggestion that the Russian related text messages in August 2016 that Strozik might be willing to take official action to impact presidential candidate Donald Trump's electoral prospects caused us to question the earlier Hillary Clinton investigation decisions in which Strozik was involved and whether he took specific actions in the Hillary Clinton investigation based on his political views. As we discussed in Chapter 5, Strozik was not the sole decision maker, etc., but his bias was clearly important. So, in the investigations to come, which are about Russia and about the FISA court, which are even have more about Strozik and Page, what's of concern here to the Inspector General was that in a report about Hillary Clinton, Strozik and Page's messages had to be reviewed because they show such bias that it explains why Hillary Clinton was probably let off. That's what we just read on page 3 of the executive summary. Okay, so that's, I think, extremely important in terms of the understanding what the real purpose of this report is. Also, the report was extremely critical of changing James Comey's original July statement to the nation in July 2016 during the campaign, when he said he was not going to prosecute Hillary. In particular, they looked at changing grossly negligent to extremely careless, which they attributed to Strozik. A statement of the FBI assessed it was reasonably likely that hostile actors gained access to Hillary's private email server was changed to possible from extremely reasonably likely. And by the way, there's tremendous information in this report, I'm going to be covering it, that shows there was foreign involvement and that the emails were being read by foreign sources, which I believe, combined with what we will learn in the Wiener discussion, means that Hillary could have been involved in espionage charges that tie together with the Awan brothers. You know, it's these little details when you're analyzing things that are so important. I don't need to work from classified sources. I don't want inside military intelligence information. I don't want, we can do this from the public record. As long as we pay attention to the public record and read the footnotes, because as I'll show you, the Inspector General believes that Hillary's email server was so poorly handled that she was multiple times hacked by foreign countries, and it could even have been set up by Huma Abedin. Okay, now what I'm proving here, why I'm making an importance of this, is that the Inspector General documents there was corruption all over the place and suggests that what was not investigated may yet be the core of the story. And as such, the political nature of Strozik, Page, and the hate Trump bias that pervaded the Department of Justice and the FBI meant we have not yet had a true investigation, which means, as we'll start seeing next week, a special prosecutor may be needed. Okay, so there's coverage there of the modification of the final report. And again, in the super chat, thank you all for being so generous. I think I've covered all the contributions. And let me see here. It's okay. I do want to comment. Plume 1. No special prosecutor. Enough has been exposed. We need indictments now. Please, everybody out there, be patient. I know everybody wants indictments. I know everybody wants these criminals thrown in jail. Um, you know, stay with me, because there's enough in this report and the way it's been constructed. There's enough behind the scenes. I know how these pieces are put together. I know what they mean. It means that the counterattack is about to start. Remember, Watergate burglary occurred before the 1972 election. It was held in November that year. The break-in had been in the summer. Break-in didn't affect Richard Nixon when it first happened. In fact, Richard Nixon won a landslide re-election. He only lost one state. I believe it was New Hampshire, or Massachusetts rather, to McGovern. It wasn't until August of 1974, 2 years after the break-in, that Nixon resigned, after the Watergate hearings and all the rest. What we now have, this is just the beginning of us realizing that the break-in is important. That it'd be like we're in now the first months of the Nixon presidency, and it's going to take the 2 years. We may have a select committee of Congress that's constituted to review this with televised hearings. We may have a second special prosecutor. But I assure you that starting next week, Congress is led by Grassley in the Senate Judiciary Committee and Devin Nunes in the House Select Committee are going to begin pushing for congressional action. Jennifer Small, when did the FBI begin to consider Donald Trump a threat? After he won the New Hampshire primary? Does the report say? This report starts to suggest that as early as 2015, there was concern about Donald Trump's presidency in the deep state. And there was a determination that Hillary had to be protected. And I think all of the, including the British involvement, was 2015. But clearly, the animus, the hatred of Comey and of Strozik and Page, that is central to the story, goes way beyond that. Now, okay. Comey, this is what the Inspector General really says about Comey. This is on page 6 of the executive summary. We concluded that Comey's unilateral announcement that he was not going to prosecute, and by the way, the FBI did not have authority to make that statement. The prosecution decision rested with the FBI, with the Department of Justice, was inconsistent with department policy and violated long-standing department practice and protocol by, among other things, criticizing Clinton's uncharged conduct. We find that Comey usurped the authority of the Attorney General and inadequately and incompletely described the legal position of the department prosecutors. Okay, so what they're basically saying is Comey was suggesting Hillary's guilt, and that if he really had been, it was improper for him to recommend that she not be prosecuted, and he was insubordinate. Now, a person who's insubordinate in the military should be court-martialed. So now we've got in the report, in the executive summary, basically that Strozik and Page's bias made the entire investigation not credible, and that Comey was acting on Comey's own behalf, that he should have been court-martialed, and that his own announcement with the changed terms revealed that Comey knew Hillary was guilty. It's clear he knew that she was guilty. His initial draft used terms grossly negligent, which was the term of criminality in the law on handling classified information. They describe here that the case, what the prosecutors were requiring, the Inspector General points out that he doesn't really entirely agree with the way the prosecutors that interpreted this law on the handling of the classified material. So they interpreted it on intent, that the intent had to be so gross as to suggest deliberate intention, criminal recklessness, or something that falls just short of being willful, as well as the individuals who sent emails containing classified information knowingly included or transferred such information into unclassified systems. In other words, the Inspector General is suggesting the prosecutors didn't even read the law correctly, because the law does not require intent. Look at this Navy submariner who was in prison for taking 6 or 7 photographs and sending them back, or I guess he just kept them in his camera. And he spent a year in prison for violating the laws on handling classified information. I want to jump over here to page 8 and 9, because these are, page 9, I think is really the crux of what the entire report's about. The fact that Strozik and several other members of the Hillary investigations team have been assigned to the Russia investigation, which was extremely active during the September and October period, just before the election, was not an excuse for failing to take any action, this time on the Wiener laptop. In other words, their political bias was the reason they didn't take any action on the Wiener laptop. Not that they were too busy on another assignment. Okay, now, what all this means is if you take the premises here, and you reread his conclusion that Comey didn't act politically, it just meant that when he asked Comey was able to have some interpretation of the law that Comey used not to indict Hillary. Okay? But it doesn't mean that Comey was acting correctly, because that was outside the Inspector General's purview to make that conclusion. That's going to be up to Congress. But the deeper report says that Strozik and Page had such bias and hatred of Donald Trump that it impacted even the Hillary investigation and biased the entire operation. And that probably meant that that was the reason why they didn't look at the Wiener laptop, which would be another reason for opening up the Hillary email investigation and finding her guilty. And by the way, the interpretation of the law that Comey used is a stretch from the normal interpretation, which does not require intent. And these prosecutors were demanding intent, so it had to be not only a determination to load the gun but pull the trigger and aim at the person you wanted to hit, where the law doesn't say any of that. The law just makes extreme negligence in the handling of classified information, the crime by itself, regardless of your intent. Now, I know some of these are technical points, and I'm hoping everybody is going to be following along, and I'm watching to see in terms of the live chat, because this is very important. This is how we discern this. This is how we go through it. There's a lot of people asking a lot of questions. What about Seth Rich? I'm not going to forget Seth Rich. I'm not going to forget about how we need to go after Rosenstein. There are people here asking lots of questions that are peripheral to what we're talking about today. So stay with me today, because we've got so much to cover here. I'm not sure we'll even do it in an hour. I'm not sure an hour is going to be enough, or an hour and a half is going to be enough time. We may go to 2 hours today. And thank you all for bearing with us. We have 1,327 people watching, and I'm very pleased to see that. So let's continue. In assessing the decision to prioritize the Russian investigation over following up on the Hillary Clinton lead discovered on the Wiener laptop, which the Inspector General thinks is the whole story right there. Why didn't you guys do that? We're particularly concerned about text messages sent by Strozik and Page that potentially indicated or created the appearance that investigative decisions they made were impacted by bias or improper considerations. Most of the text messages raise such questions pertaining to the Russian investigation, which, remember, is not the scope here. It's so important the Inspector General is bringing it into this report on the Hillary Clinton investigation. And some of these text messages, particularly Strozik's August 8th, 2016 message, "We will stop candidate Donald Trump from being elected." And remember, that was a Strozik page text message that Congress has been trying to get now for 6 months. And Rosenstein won't turn it over, neither will Sessions. The Inspector General turned it over. Don't you think the Inspector General is trying to tell you and tell the world that the FBI was so biased it did a crooked investigation, like Donald Trump said, was running a witch hunt on Russia? The Inspector General is bending over backwards within the limits of what he's allowed to do to tell a story that our only conclusion is that it was political. And to put that blame on Strozik and Page. Who did Strozik and Page report to? Ultimately, James Comey. He was the one who employed these people. If they were so biased against Donald Trump, and it was obvious, and Comey was biased against Donald Trump, and it's obvious when we really read the actions that he took. Someone here said that when they were listening to Comey's presentation in July 2016, they actually dropped their drink in their hand and were so flabbergasted. Right, and Brittany Michelle, Fox said there's a whole month missing from the report, the end of September to October. The Wiener laptop, it is in the Inspector General's report. What the Inspector General said and what Fox was reporting is what I just said. And that is, the Wiener laptop was available starting in September. But it wasn't until the end of October that the FBI paid any attention to it. Because Strozik and Page knew how damaging it was and knew there was evidence in the Wiener's laptop that was irrefutable that Hillary had violated national security standards. And in fact, with Homa Abedin sending emails to her Yahoo account, had made it possible for foreign actors to pick them up. All the Muslim Brotherhood had to do was have Homa Abedin's username and password. And this report says that Homa Abedin's Yahoo account was compromised, and that Hillary's email server was compromised by foreign servers. Put it together. Inspector General's thinking that there may have been an espionage case revealed had Wiener's laptop been looked at, and that was too explosive, because Strozik and Page didn't want espionage brought up about Hillary Clinton in the last 2 months before the voting in the election. So they said, we're too busy with Russia. We can't do it. And for a month, they let that Wiener laptop lie cold. And the criticism of Comey is incredible in this report once you get past the headline. You know, that when he says basically, why did Comey decide to go out and give this, cowboy announcement himself that Hillary was not going to be prosecuted when that was not his role to do. Comey's description of the choice being between two doors, one labeled speak and the other conceal. This is about his decision to go public with the Wiener announcement that had been, under investigation again, which he made in October, just a few days before the voting. The Comey's explanation that there were two doors, one speak, go public about the Wiener and say that an investigation's been opened, the other conceal, hide it, was a false dichotomy. The two doors were actually follow policy practice and department from policy practice. He claimed he faced a difficult decision. He made a serious error of judgment. Well, Comey's serious error of judgment was not to take that laptop seriously in the first place, and to examine Wiener's laptop and to insist that it be examined. The only reason, and the Inspector General points it out, Comey only went public in October about the Wiener laptop and the investigation being reopened. And remember, everybody on the left and Hillary supporters are mad at Comey for reopening the investigation. And the Inspector General said, well, that wasn't political. Well, yes, it was political, because the New York Police Department was going to release the information if Comey didn't. And Comey had to go public saying that there was an investigation opened again on Hillary and the Wiener laptop, because the New York Police Department were going to spill the beans. And what the FBI did is they went in and they seized for the New York Police Department all the material from the Wiener laptop, all backups. They knew where everything was. They took it all and took all the information from the Wiener laptop, including what we see on page, I think it's 294, that there was information about sex trafficking and the Clinton Foundation. That was on the Wiener laptop too. That was on page 294. And Comey was forced to talk about this laptop. But after the FBI had everything seized and brought back to Washington and told the New York Police Department they were off the Wiener investigation, 3 days after announcing the investigation was open, Comey announced it was closed. And this, again, is what the Inspector General refers to as outside of practice bias from Strozek and Page. He doesn't attribute, while he's saying the headline is Comey wasn't political, the body of the text says everything Comey did was political. And to save his own reputation. I think that's another theme here, is that Comey was always acting to make Comey okay. It was always about Comey. He's the Girl Scout in this that always had to do the right thing by this higher standard. Yeah, well, it's all nonsense. Because he didn't violate procedure, and he should have been court-martialed, put out from them. Now, I want everybody to understand what we're doing here and to also feel part of this. Because what I'm trying to show everyone is how to take these documents and understand what the Inspector General really said. You've got Inspector General Horowitz is in a tough spot. He knows in his heart that what Comey did and everybody else was politically biased. It was wrong, probably criminal. Yet he himself has a mandate which is very narrow. And he doesn't himself want to go and violate procedure or go rogue. So he's forced to say Comey had some legal reasoning both for reopening the investigation in October 2016 and also for recommending in July 2016 that Hillary wasn't going to be prosecuted. So the Inspector General, being respectful of the limitations of what his assignment was, did the right thing, and he said it wasn't political. But then that's one page of 500. The other 499, he's telegraphing to us here and expecting us to read it. Okay, so QAnon talks about breadcrumbs. Here's all the breadcrumbs that are within this report. And it's our job in open source. This is how I've made a career. This is how we caught John Kerry. Yeah, it's how Abomination I wrote, which was all about exposing Barack Obama as a Saul Alinsky radical, raised in Islam, a revolutionary who hated the United States, embraced Frantz Fanon and Malcolm X. All this comes from the ability to know what somebody's really saying. And what the Inspector General is saying is, please, read past my conclusion to the 499 pages of the report, in which you're going to find there's more than enough evidence here to put Hillary in prison for the rest of her life, to prosecute Comey for multiple instances of perjury, leaking classified information, to go after Loretta Lynch, to investigate that tarmac meeting more closely, Why was Loretta Lynch allowing all these cowboys to have their political bias? And herself saying, make it a matter. That's covered here in this report. The Inspector General knows these people should go to prison. But it's up to us, the Citizen Journal community. It's up to you around the world to get into the report, to read it. It's just like with my Killing the Deep State. I know many out there have bought the book, but please read it, because it's very important that you get into the details and understand. I wrote that book to make it clear that the deep state was, that political bias was out to get Donald Trump. And they would do everything they could, including assassinating him if that's what it came to. And Donald Trump, I wrote in that book, was going to survive because he knew how to deal with a propaganda attack. And he was seeking God's help, and he was going to get through this. But now I'm wanting everybody to understand how we can discern in decoding the Inspector General's report. And that's what I'm doing here today. I'm decoding the Inspector General's report so you can understand what was really said. And this is where the message comes that will be read and picked up by the professional politicians, will be read and picked up by the intelligence agencies. They don't miss this stuff. They get it. And they get it right away. And the message of this report is going to be, we need now to prosecute the criminals here who were politically operatives, including Mueller, shut down Mueller's operation, get Manafort out of prison, just like we want Tommy Robinson out of prison, and get to the real investigation, which starts with the Weiner laptop, Huma Abedin. Go to the Awan brothers, which he does not mention because it's outside of this, but they're doing the same thing. They're telegraphing on behalf of the Democrats classified information to our enemies, including the Muslim Brotherhood and including Al-Qaeda in Pakistan, and making it possible for them to read these emails. That's certainly a massive crime. And we're only beginning. We haven't gotten to the Russian investigation. We haven't gotten to the spies being placed. These are going to be 2 more reports. Okay, now I'm probably going to go 2 hours. I can see that happening because we're just beginning to get into the meat of this. And there's so much here to cover. But I want you to understand that what we're doing is we're decoding. And that's the key to understanding what's going on here. And understanding, and if everybody will stay with us, and I think we've got a great audience staying with us, and in the super chat, E. Gertz from Canada with a generous contribution. Thank you. And again, I love that because it comes from our neighbors to the north, and we join with Canada in the Canadian people in wanting freedom from the New World Order. And maybe Trudeau can get himself a new set of eyelashes to paste back on. At any rate, let's get back into the decoding. And thank you all for your generosity. And thank you, 1,300 people, for staying with us. It's a Saturday afternoon, Saturday around the world, where there are people waking up, people in the middle of the night in the Middle East, people in the, how this day goes, people in the evening in Europe, in the United States getting into the early evening. I mean, it's astounding we had this world community awake all through the day and night, joining us here the day before Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. I'm really impressed. And I'm going to ask God's blessing on us being together and on the families who are listening. God bless all. We come out of this with you having an insight in how how investigative journalism is really done. When I'm long gone, these techniques you can continue to apply. And it's why we need to keep the internet alive and free discussion. For those who get into it like I get into it, this is not this is like the best this is the best spy story, best best mystery story you ever read. Reading through this, it's a page turner. I can't wait to see what the next page is in the Inspector General's report, to see something we learned that we didn't know before. A lot of it's in the footnotes. And a lot of it here is so deep into it that you've really got to think about it. And when you do, suddenly it pops out at you what this really means. Like, I'm going to give you this one right here, page 40. What we really didn't know before was that it was on July 10th, 2015, that the Counterintelligence Division opened a criminal investigation into the Hillary email server. Now, that's pretty spectacular, because what it means is the FBI 2015. Remember, I said this all starts in 2015. That's July 2015. And they're looking at Hillary's emails, not from the criminal division. They weren't originally looking at this as a mishandling of classified information. It was the counter-espionage division, which means they suspected that Hillary Clinton had a private email server because she was allowing foreign nations to have access to intelligence information from inside the State Department. That's startling. It means that her play-to-pay schemes. She wanted foreign countries to know how the State Department was coordinating with policies that Hillary was putting into place to benefit Russia in Uranium One. Uranium One's critical to all this. Why did Mueller take a trip to Russia delivering uranium on Hillary's behalf in 2009? A secret mission we wouldn't have known about except for Julian Assange and WikiLeaks releasing a State Department cable. These types of things, I think, are fundamentally I want to kind of reflect again on Father's Day, what this all means, what it means to me personally. This is about leaving a legacy for my family, for my children, for my wife, those who are going to, grandchildren, whomever. The patriotism that we all need to feel, regardless of what country we're from, is that we need to have the right thing done. And what's so troubling here, why people want lock her up, and I guarantee you the lock her up is going to be heard all through the coming campaign in 2018 midterms. What people want is justice. That's the theme in human history. God put within all of us a desire to know what's right and what's wrong, a moral compass. Children have a moral compass. Dogs, animals have a moral compass. Dog knows what something's done to it that's wrong. Dog understands who's good and who's bad. I've had lots of dogs. Dogs are moral creatures. Maybe they sometimes may be sneaky and do things they know themselves are wrong. That's when they come home and, the entire living room's all ripped up and they say the cat did it. Dogs are crafty, but a moral compass, which I think we all have and share across the human race, and with all living creatures, because I believe God did create this as a moral universe and a moral experience. The desire to do the right thing is what motivates me, and what excites me is when we find these little nuggets here that expose the bad guys. It's the same motivation of reading a crime novel. You get to find the clues. You get to be Perot. Unfortunately, I think this is a Perot story like the Orient Express. We're going to find out that everybody in the Justice Department wanted to kill Donald Trump. It wasn't one person who committed the crime. They each came in and did their own part killing Donald Trump. It's going to be a Poirot story, an Agatha Christie, in which everybody in the Justice Department was equally guilty. Okay, so if this was a counterintelligence operation, what they thought with the Inspector General was in response to a referral from the Inspector General to look into the Hillary's use of the email server, was they thought that there was unauthorized use going on for a purpose, a pay-to-play purpose that coordinated with some of the worst enemies of the United States around the world, including Russia. What's Mueller's? Just ask yourself, why did Mueller take a secret trip to Russia as head of the FBI in 2009, head of the FBI, delivering uranium for Hillary? And don't believe the cover story that Russia was just investigating a theft that had occurred. Russia already had samples of all that uranium. But of course, Russia was implicating Mueller, and Russia would have liked nothing better for Hillary to win. That's the truth. Because Hillary was the one that Russia owned for all the millions they were paying her on the Uranium One. Uranium One is the Rosetta Stone of all that we're talking about. And when that's understood, Mueller himself will be put under criminal investigation for Uranium One. So we're decoding the Inspector General's report. Now on page 66, the Inspector General realized that Obama gave two statements which Obama should not have done. But it's telegraphing, it's dog whistling. When Obama gave statements saying that, and this is all where Lynch changes it to a matter. When Obama says that it was, for instance, this was his statement October 11th, 2015. Remember, 15. And Hillary's emails are the subject yet. Donald Trump is nowhere around to yet even be the serious candidate he became. Everybody's thinking, well, Donald Trump might run, but he'll drop out again. They're trying now to protect Hillary. And the deep state is circling the wagons, and Obama's giving his dog whistle statements out to the troops to how they're supposed to defend Hillary. This is the theme that ultimately Comey makes his conclusion. And the Inspector General's got it right here, suggesting that Obama was manipulating Comey from the beginning with politics. On October 11, 2015, in an interview with then-President Barack Obama aired on the CBS show 60 Minutes, during the interview, Obama characterized former Secretary Clinton's use of a private email server as a mistake. Yeah, right. But said it did not pose a national security problem. It wasn't a situation which endangered America's national security. And then 2 days later, on October 13, 2015, Obama's press secretary, Josh Ernst, when asked about Obama's contents, said, it should be read as an attempt. They should be read as an attempt to steer the directions. He was asked whether the comments were attempt to steer the direction of the FBI investigation, which obviously they were. Ernst replied that Obama made his comments based on public information, and they were not intended to influence an independent investigation. Yeah, right, that's wink, wink. And the Inspector General knows it, and we know it. Because he goes on to detail about how that after Obama made those statements, what an impact it started to have on the investigation. So 3 pages later, page 69, former president again made the statement about the Hillary investigation in an interview with Fox News on April 10th, 2016. Okay, so the statement with CBS was back here. It was in 2015, October 11, 2015. The investigation, a criminal investigation, but counterintelligence FBI investigation. That's not the group that does bank robberies. The counterintelligence is the one who looks into spies. So October 15th, Obama gave his first statement. Then on Fox News on Sunday, on April 10th, 2016, Sunday comments. When these shows have big audiences at the end of watching football or baseball all day, Obama stated that while former Secretary Clinton had been careless in managing her emails while she was Secretary of State. She would never intentionally do anything to endanger the security of the United States with her emails. Oh, no. But note, these are the 2 points on which Comey interpreted the law, that she had been careless. They changed it from grossly negligent to extremely careless. That theme was telegraphed by Obama. And secondly, she didn't intend, which is not part of the law. The Inspector General is laying this all out. He's saying the political bias started with Obama. Extremely careless in managing her emails. She would never intentionally do anything to endanger the security of the United States with her emails, Obama added. He also stated that he would not interfere in the investigation. I guarantee there's no political influence in the investigation conducted by the Justice Department or the FBI. Not just in this case, but any case. Well, he's denying the obvious. Just like when the Inspector General concludes there's no political influence, the entire rest of the report is written to show there was political influence. When you know how to read these documents, we know what you're really being told. And that's the skill, and that's the discipline of real investigating journalism. You know that Obama fully understood what he was doing. He telegraphed the themes of the investigation by the FBI that were be used not to prosecute her. The themes were she was just careless. It wasn't negligence. Not that she didn't, she should have done better, had a responsibility. No, she was just a little careless, she forgot that day. And it was a mistake. We all make mistakes. We have to excuse him. And she didn't mean to hurt the United States. No, by giving the uranium to Russia. By Russia, that ending up with Iran. There we go back to Iran being used to enrich uranium in Syria. Eggman, thank you very much. Excellent analysis. With a question mark, I hope you're saying it's an excellent analysis. I'd like to think that. But yes, thank you very much in the super chat. I very much appreciate it. And let's see if there's any other comments here. Okay, for your NFL football, Thor Velasco, Obama called an audible. Right, Obama called an audible. On the field, he called a play, and the team heard the play, because it's what they did conclude. And it's here on page 676. It's on pages, and it's laid out in page clearly. The Inspector General takes 3 pages to elaborate on this theme, or 4. It's titled, even has a section title here, and it's all about Obama interfering in the investigation by making statements that telegraphed how, in fact, the FBI was going to conclude, and that was completely understood. Now, as to the foreign involvement, there's actually quite a lot of the material on the foreign involvement. Let me read this section. This is on page 76. Remember, it's a 500-page report. As I'm saying, we may have to do more of these. There's so much in this report. There's so much damaging information to Hillary, to the deep state. I've never seen anything written this effective to go against the deep state. I mean, I'm honored, combining with the book I've written, Killing the Deep State, that we now have an Inspector General who went deep into how the deep state operates. The Obama audible, the Obama dog whistle that he then denies, got deep state written all over it. And the Inspector General's laying it out. Just have to know how to read it. Okay, so page 76. The FBI's forensic agent told the Office of Inspector General that although he didn't believe there was any way of determining 100% whether Clinton servers had been compromised by foreign actors, he felt fairly confident there had been an intrusion. When asked whether a sophisticated foreign adversary was likely to be able to cover its tracks, he said, yes, they could. And he said, but I felt as if we coordinated with the right units and headquarters for those specific adversaries, and the information that was returned back to me was that there was no indication of a compromise, but yet he's not believing that. He believes there was a compromise. And we'll see here as we go down further pages in here where more documentation is made in the footnotes about the foreign compromise that that occurred with Hillary servers and her emails, including the ones that were diverted by Huma Abedin to her Yahoo account. That's probably where the massive intrusion of foreign agents occurred. And I didn't realize this, but it turned out that the FBI did ask for Yahoo to reveal the internal contents of Huma Abedin's Yahoo account, and it was one of the thousands that were hacked. So there was confirmation that foreign actors they had the username and password to Huma Abedin's Yahoo account, into which she was shifting thousands of Hillary Clinton emails, including State Department classified emails. That's such an obvious violation of national security regulations. It's obvious why Wiener's laptop was suppressed by Strozik and suppressed by Comey, of which the Inspector General is extremely critical, because that would have blown the lid off everything. Would have blown the lid off of Hillary's emails, would have blown the lid off of the deep state connections that were behind Hillary Clinton, including Russia. I'd like people in here. We're coming up to an hour and a half, and we've got 1,400 people with us. I'd like people to, text here in the live chat. Do you want us to keep going for another half hour? I'm happy to do it. I'm so into this. This hour and a half for me has just skated by. Yes, child trafficking. It's mentioned on page 294. Wiener's laptop had information in it about Clintons and the Clinton Foundation being involved in child sex trafficking. It's in the report. Again, page 294. You just have to know how to read it. People are saying, yes, keep going, okay? Yes, keep going. All right. I'll be happy to. I see everybody saying, yes, keep going. Well, thank you all very much. I see that from around the world. We'll go another half hour, right? Because I don't want to unduly tie everybody's up time with their families. Tom Rutledge, go cat, go. Tom is one of the moderators doing an outstanding job. The moderators, by the way, are doing a great job. I just want to make sure I'm going to have one of the gentlemen who was early on blocked because he mentioned the moderators thought he was going in the wrong direction, was actually someone who's on the military intelligence staff of General Flynn, sent me an email and said, your moderators blocked me. Wait a minute, I served with General Flynn. So if anybody wants to know about the military intelligence following us, let's just make sure we don't block them out. I'm going to keep going. Agman, thank you again for another super chart. Run. Yes, let's keep going. And I'll be doing more of this. We'll be on to it increasingly. Page 97 makes it clear, and I was not really fully aware of this either, that Strozik was the lead analyst on the Hillary Clinton investigation and on the Russian investigation. I didn't really understand that before. So Strozik was the guy. Sharon M., thank you again for her tips and the super chats. Sharon saying, thank you, this is amazing information. It's really right here. We just need to know how to read it. You'll be able to yourself pick out these nuggets now after you stay with me and after you learn how, in fact, these things are written. There's an art to the way an inspector general writes one of these reports. And this Horowitz, I got to tell you, is a brilliant person. Because this Horowitz, everybody says, oh, he's going to be terrible. He's appointed by Obama. Horowitz is honest. And he writes these reports knowing that there'll be people like us who are capable of decoding them. So he can say in the first paragraph, oh, yeah, well, Comey wasn't political. The emperor wore beautiful clothes. We all loved the entire audience applauded the emperor's splendid robes, except that in the, child's fable, he was naked. So the rest of the report tells you the emperor was naked. But the beginning says, oh, it wasn't political. Everybody applauded the emperor. That's brilliant writing. This is how these reports are written. And I'm so pleased to have the opportunity and the honor of being able to decode it with all of you in this community. Thank you all for remaining. And we'll go through this next half hour, hopefully with information. I think there's so much in here. Let me read another section on the foreign involvement. This is on page 144. It said the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's email someone had a very good note here. I also want to thank all of you in terms of community for the patriotism you're all showing, for the desire to stay with this analysis. Moves me deeply that you're this committed around the world to truth, to honesty, to justice, that we can have 1,400 people on a Saturday evening, and wherever it is, all the various times it is around the world, from around the world, listening and participating actively, convinces me that God will listen and that justice will be done. And we have right here the tools to have justice done. Remember, Donald Trump's email today, his post today, his tweet, said it all. We just have to now support Donald Trump. That's our role. Our job is to decode the Inspector General to support Donald Trump. And I want to thank all of you out there. With this kind of dedication, Donald Trump can't fail. And God will succeed. This is the strongest indication I've had so far, and I've never been more encouraged that we're going to win. Donald Trump is going to win. And this counterattack is going to be a massive and glorious thing, of which you will all participate knowledgeably and share that around the world. Okay, so this page 144. The FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails successfully determined classified information was improperly stored and transmitted on Clinton's email server. So that's the crime. And classified information was compromised by unauthorized individuals to include foreign governments or intelligence services. So the Inspector General just told us that foreign intelligence services are reading Hillary's emails. I mean, how convenient is that? Yeah, well, convenient or by design? Is that why Hillary had the email server? To advance her pay-to-play goals with foreign governments and intelligence services who are counter to the United States. To include, and classified information was compromised by unauthorized individuals to include foreign governments or intelligence services via cyber intrusion or other means, referring to compromises of email accounts associated with certain individuals who communicated with Hillary's server, such as Blumenthal. And Humabedin. Sid Blumenthal was in that computer. Guccifer was in that computer. Guccifer 1 was in that computer. I mean, these other people who had access to Hillary's emails could also have been transmitting them for pay to their sources. Basically, what were the mainstream media? You will not have heard any of this in the mainstream media, I assure you, because the mainstream media doesn't want you reading the Inspector General's report. It's too dense. It's 500 pages. Just listen to us. There's nothing there. Baghdad Bob. That's the mainstream media. Louis Bishop. Currently out in my kayak on Lake Orion, Michigan, enjoying a nice long Corsi stream. Great way to spend my afternoon. Happy Father's Day. Well, Louis, thank you. God bless you. Have a happy Father's Day. You're setting a standard for us all. I'd love to be out there in a kayak with you in the Lake Orion, Michigan. And I'm delighted to be with you in this live stream. The internet is truly a gift of God, and I think it'll be our future. Let's just keep it free for everybody. Thank you, Louis. So, Blumenthal compromised. Huma compromised. This thing was like a sieve. Guccifer was in there. Guccifer downloaded hundreds of emails from Hillary. I mean, it was ridiculous. Yeah, that's right. So it's like, be in a kayak. That show is coming up in the future. Yeah, that'll probably be the day when we in a kayak. At any rate, the idea is a pretty good idea. The structure and investigation of the prosecution team is described, and the treatment of the investigation as a traditional espionage matter, rather than a criminal investigation, hindered the ability of the investigating team to obtain full, accurate, and timely information. That sentence is so explosive. What the Inspector General is telegraphing here is that what Loretta Lynch did with Comey's compliance is they made the Hillary investigation not a criminal investigation, but a counterintelligence investigation, which shuffled it off to the spy guys, meaning that they all knew Hillary was using her email server for espionage, as were others who were penetrating it, including foreign intelligence services. And if they had done it as a criminal investigation, which the FBI didn't do, because of course Comey didn't want that, Obama didn't want that, Lynch didn't want to do that, they could have had a grand jury. They could have really had investigators. Instead, they sent out 5 investigators to the FBI who were calling Hillary president. Were already so in the bag for Hillary, they didn't want to investigate anything. I mean, that's incredible what we just read. And it shows that it was a counterintelligence investigation for a reason. That reason being the FBI, the Department of Justice, never intended to find Hillary guilty of anything. They were going to say it was all a mistake. Oh my, she made a mistake. She, like Hillary said, you mean, it was cleaned by bit washed or whatever it was, acid washed. Said, oh, you mean like when you clean your house type, making a joke out of it? No. They knew exactly what they were doing. And the Inspector General was saying from the get-go, the Department of Justice never intended to find Hillary guilty of anything. Ray Hugel in the Super Chat. So much of this is economics. Every once in a while, let's speak economically rather than politically. Well, that's a very good point. And let me just expand on that for a minute, Ray. I think that's very important. Thank you for reminding me that, Hillary had a huge economic incentive here for the New World Order crowd. Working with Russia, giving Russia access to 20% of our uranium, she made $147 million in her foundation, largely coming from Canada. The people who were working with Frank Giustra, the penny stock guy who had decided with Bill Clinton they were going to corner the uranium market, take it out from underneath Russia with Kazakhstan, make Russia go at it with they wanted like a shark, with the bait taken away from it, the shark biting the water everywhere. They knew they'd get a huge price out of Russia buying uranium-1. All Hillary had to do was make sure that it got through the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, and guess who helped her? Robert Mueller. He hid that information. after he took a little convenient trip in 2009, nobody knew about, secret, for Hillary, the head of the FBI, sending a uranium sample into Moscow on a secret mission. And this whole thing is money. Money, money, money. And what we have then Mueller making $18 million net worth. Wow, he didn't get that on FBI pension. No, he got that because they shuffled him, deep state, in and out of cushy jobs. So Mueller, go be FBI for a while and help us cover up HSBC. And then help us cover up this and help us cover up 9/11. And by the way, your assignment now is to go over to the law firm and you'll earn $5 million a year. Comey's worth, I think, $14 million a year. How did these guys get to be millionaires? By serving the interests of the deep state. Why does the deep state want all these agreements? Why do they want Hillary being president? Because if Hillary was president, the deep state got to advance their trade agreements. We'd be in the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the Transatlantic Partnership. We'd be losing sovereignty left and right. Russia wanted Hillary. They owned Hillary. They owned Podesta. Podesta made $35 million from Russia, and Hillary's selling military technology to Russia. I wrote a whole chapter about it in Killing the Deep State. You'll see in the WikiLeaks that the pass-through shell corporation in the Netherlands that was created was Joule, Joule. Total world domination. That's what this game is about. And Hillary was the chosen candidate. Just happened God chose Donald Trump. And enough Americans, the deplorables, and I'm sure we're the deplorables. Now, of course, the FBI agents say that we're all stupid. We're all, like Obama said, clinging to our Bibles and our guns. I'm happy to cling to my Bible and my gun. This is what, we were that close from losing it all. And by the grace of God, because we did get down on our knees and repented, we were saved. We've now got to make sure the salvation remains permanent. That's why we've got to support Donald Trump, and it's our obligation to do this decoding. It's why I've spent, since we got this report, I'm continuing to read it and find new nuggets. You will too. The way this is written is a beautiful exposition by the Inspector General of how to get Hillary. Just do the things he's asking us to investigate that weren't done. I'll give you another one, page 153. This was also shocking. In the investigation, FBI investigation of Hillary's emails, they did not get all of her devices, nor did they go to Huma Abedin and get all of her devices. They didn't want any of Huma Abedin's devices. It was the New York Police Department that went and got that laptop. I'm positive the FBI, what I was told, the FBI in New York had to tell New York, told Washington, because they were forbidden to do anything with Weiner's laptop after the FBI took everything out of the New York Police Department. So the New York Police Department said, well, we're just going to go with the New York FBI was forbidden as well to do anything with Weiner's laptop. This was all in Washington. They took everything back to Washington. So the New York Police Department and Weiner and the New York FBI said, well, let's not go investigate Hillary. Let's go investigate Weiner. Let's get his laptop. Because they knew once we found out that Hillary was sending all these emails to Yahoo, and I wrote about that. There was one instance in the unredacted Huma emails the Judicial Watch got that said she was sending her emails Huma to yahoo.com. The New York Police Department knew that. New York FBI knew that. They told Washington, we're just investigating a sex pervert, knowing that when they got it, they would find 600,000 emails, and including a huge number, hundreds of thousands that Huma had put into her Yahoo account from Hillary's State Department account. And the FBI did not go get any of the other devices. Listen to this. This is page 153. Regarding Abedin's devices, witnesses told us that Abedin played largely an administrative role on the Clinton staff, and as such did not believe her emails were likely to be significant to the investigation, and the FBI bought that. Even though she was shuffling hundreds of thousands of State Department emails to her Yahoo account, the FBI didn't know about it. But the FBI now is beginning to sound like Inspector Clouseau. They didn't know. They just thought she was an administrative assistant. She's Muslim Brotherhood. She's sworn her whole family's Muslim Brotherhood. The FBI doesn't know this. Of course, they don't want to know it because Obama's packing the entire administration with Muslim Brotherhood. Regarding Huma Abedin's devices, witnesses told us that Abedin played a largely administrative role in Clinton's staff, and as such, they did not believe her emails were likely to be significant to the investigation. Yet, as referenced above, this view was in tension with Comey's approach in late 2016. Comey described the discovery on Weiner's laptop as potentially having golden emails on it, but yet no one followed this up. Okay, because the investigator in charge, Strozik, said he was too busy with Russia. And they didn't pursue the emails that were all on the Weiner laptop. They suppressed them. Because Comey, as soon as Comey recognized that there was gold in that computer, they let it sit for a month. And only did anything with Weiner's computer because the New York Police Department was going to release the information on their own. And that information even included, as we now know, page 294, Hillary Clinton and the foundation involved in child sex trafficking. I mean, this thing is as dirty as it gets. And the Inspector General lays it out. He lays it out chapter and verse. And I'm going to skip ahead a couple points here. We will do more on this. We will do more on these investigations. Sorry about that. Foreign. I'll pick up foreign again. There's a lot in here about Comey and Lynch, and the Inspector General doesn't buy anything that they told him. He reports it, but he doesn't buy it. And he makes it clear he didn't buy it. Okay, now here, Strozik stated in May 17th email, the initial draft of this whole Comey report in July to the Nation was he was going to say it was reasonably likely that hostile actors gained access, and they made him change to possible. Okay, and Strozik, it's more accurate to say that we know. So this is Strozik when he was interviewed by the Inspector General, choosing not to lie outright, not to immediately be recommended for criminal prosecution. And the Inspector General would have done it. It is more accurate to say that we know foreign investigators obtained access to some of her emails, including at least one that was secret, in other words, classified, via compromises of the private emails of some of her staffers, like Huma Abedin. It is also possible, it's accurate to say, a sophisticated foreign actor would likely have known about her private email domain, clintonemail.com, and would be competent enough not to leave a trace if they gained access. So, even Strozik's admitting that he basically did a put-up job here by ignoring ignoring Huma Abedin's the Weiner laptop for a month after they had it. They had it in September. It would have blown up the entire. If it had been dealt with honestly, the information of that Weiner laptop made it absolutely clear that Hillary Clinton was guilty of espionage and improperly using classified information. She should have been sent to prison for her entire life. That's the truth. And that was suppressed by Weiner. Comey allowed it to happen, and it would have been suppressed in the end of the election had the New York Police Department said, "We're tired of this. We'll tell the public what was in that laptop, including the sex stuff." That's when the FBI from Washington goes down to New York, seizes it all, makes sure they've got everything, backups and all, take it back to Washington. Reminds me of the Secret Service at gunpoint taking John Kennedy's body out of Dallas. It was a local crime at the time, and the autopsy should have been done in Parkland Hospital, where it might have been done right. Now, Horowitz, what I'm telling you is that Horowitz has written this report brilliantly. That because of the obligations and the nature of his job, he had to say it wasn't political because Comey would not admit to him. Comey said, "Well, I base it on this statute and that statute and this other statute." And Horowitz did not have the resources or the assignment or the ability to go beyond that and see if Comey was lying. So that page 1 says not political. The other 499 pages, if you know how to read them, say absolutely political bias. That everybody knew Hillary was guilty and buried it and went after Trump on this Russia investigation, which they used as a pretext in order not to do very serious and do anything with Weiner's laptop for a month except let it sit there on ice. Okay, so there is all of this, I think, to me is shocking. The other thing they changed in the Comey report was they took Obama had communicated through a pseudonym with Hillary on her private email server when she was out of the country, and this was done earlier than when Obama said that he first learned about the private email server. So maybe a couple of years before the server was actually known to exist, Obama was using it, and then Obama dared to say that he only found out about it when he read about Hillary had a private email server when he read it in the newspapers. And what they did was they sanitized it. The email exchange with the president and Secretary Clinton on the territory of an adversary country was removed from the Comey's July 2016 statement to the public he wasn't going to prosecute, which was not his decision to make, and said another senior government official, not identifying the president. The final version of the sentence omitted the reference altogether and instead said she used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. These emails indicate that the decision to remove this sentence was based on the concerns about litigation under the Privacy Act. Yeah, well, it was also removed because Obama telegraphed not to find Hillary guilty, a mistake, because Obama knew if Hillary violated national security laws, he did too, by using a pseudonym instead of Barack Obama at eop.gov or whatever it is, using, XYZ at some other undistinguished server.com. That was his pseudonym. And when that was discovered, which it was known by the FBI, it would have meant that Barack Obama also violated national security arrangements and maybe himself was involved in espionage. Okay, now I see we're really at the very end, and there's much more to go through. On Monday, we'll figure it. We have over 1,500 people watching us. The number has grown as we've gone through. This is a stopping point here, because I think I've made the point that knowing how to read the Inspector General's report really shows that these cover-up artists were engaged in cover-up crimes, obstructing justice, Comey, all the way through, from Lynch down, and the chief co-conspirator was Barack Obama, who telegraphed the audible on the football field, telling them all what the message was to exonerate Hillary. Couple points here being made in the super chat. I want to give you a preview of what I see is going to happen. We've got about 5 minutes here before I promised we would end. I think next week is going to be the beginning of a lot of hearings. And you're going to find that the hearings by Grassley, by Nunes, and the others are going to go into the reading the Inspector General's report just the way I read it. And understand the Inspector General was really saying these people were as guilty as sin. And going through it deeply. Now, in the process of going through all of that, you're going to find things being brought forward in Congress, and Congress is going to be shocked. Even Trey Gowdy, you're going to find, is shocked. Because Trey Gowdy can no longer support this FBI. You know, he might have grown up watching Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. in the FBI show, but even Trey Gowdy is going to have to say, I can't accept this. And certainly Lindsey Graham. And you're going to find calls increasingly for a special prosecutor or a select committee to do an investigation and hold televised hearings. This report, I've never seen a report which lays out the criminality as brilliantly as Horowitz did, where for anybody who knows how to read this, he gives you the instructions for how to go after Hillary and the deep state. You just have to read the report. He lays it out. You know, going after these other devices, going after Huma Abedin using Yahoo.com, going after the fact that these, Blumenthal and others were all penetrating Hillary's system. Guccifer, Easy, foreign intelligence agencies, reading Hillary's emails. Hillary doing Uranium One, benefiting from all this, telegraphing it, all the pay to play. It's all right there. And in dissecting this, decoding it, thank you to Eggman in the super chat. Folks, we need to fund this effort. Thank you. I deeply appreciate that. And fund the others. Fund all the others out there who are. I mean, the alternative media needs to be funded. If it's not, it will die. And the mainstream media is trash, including increasingly Fox. Even Sean Hannity's still the best. But you're going to see next week, and I speak out and support Sean every time I get a chance, because on his shows, especially with people like Sarah Carter, John Solomon, Joe DeGeneva, shout out to all of them. They know how to do research. These people are pros. I've learned from them. That's how good they are. And you all can be equally as good. And the future is depending upon you being that good. We're going to, among those listening, among the 1,500 listening today, I'm assured there are future winners of Pulitzer Prizes, future investigative journalists who come up with information that changes the world. God is depending on this. That's why God created us with our free will, our ability to investigate and question. And God will help us as long as we help ourselves. Next week, you're also going to see not only requests for special congressional investigations and a special prosecutor, but you're going to see Donald Trump. I'm sure Donald Trump has on his desk Paul Manafort's pardon. And I think the stage is being set for him to do that. By the way, Strozik and Page were both hired on to Mueller's staff. Mueller had to release already one of his anti-Trump people because she texted out, something about the resistance and how she was supporting the resistance against Trump. And Weissman, the prosecutor, who showed up in this liberal judge's court to get Manafort put into jail, this all is as crooked as it gets. Manafort could have been restrained to his home, could have had a telephone and the internet taken away from him. He didn't need to be imprisoned. imprisoned on Father's Day weekend. How heartless are these people? Donald Trump has the power of pardon. I think he should pardon General Flynn, and he should pardon Manafort. Then there's nothing left for Manafort, for Mueller, except prosecution against some Russian trolls and a company that didn't exist. I think today let's end by rejoicing on Father's Day that we can be together, that we can form a family, community, and that we are so dedicated and continue to be dedicated to the truth. I'm going to end, as I always do, by saying, in the end, God wins. And saying, God bless all of you for being with us and staying for 2 hours. That sets a new record for me. 2 hours. Thank you. God bless Donald Trump. God bless the United States, and God bless Donald Trump, especially through the next few weeks. I've never seen Donald Trump look better. He needs our support. Let's continue being in there, backing him with this type of information and our determination that Donald Trump will win. As Jerome Corsi on Saturday, it's April 16th, 7 o'clock, just after 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, 7 o'clock p.m. God bless you all. God bless the United States. God bless Donald Trump. Thank you for being with us. Jerome Corsi signing off.